All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is. It is hip hop interview segments with DJ Immortal, and we got the one and only man. We got award-winning b-boy MC, the one and only The Craft, right here live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, what's up? How we doing tonight? Thanks for having me on, Immortal.
Hey, man, you are most certainly welcome, man. It's definitely an honor to have a phenomenal MC like yourself take over the Canadian FM dial this evening.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you very much once again for having me, representing Fall River, Massachusetts, New England hip-hop, keeping it real on our end of things, too, man. Hopefully Canada's doing well.
Oh, man, we're doing best we could possibly be right now, just dealing with a huge snowstorm that's moving in, but that's Canadian weather, man, you know what I mean? I've been dealing with it for years, so I'm pretty well used to it by now.
Yeah, man. We actually had a show up in Toronto, I think maybe like 2 years, the year before COVID hit, and we were staying in the hotel, and then we realized that you guys were getting hit with like 2 feet, so we ended up pulling an all-nighter and driving back from right after the show, like 10 hours home so that we didn't get stuck there an extra day. So, yeah, I know how it is up there.
With Canadian winters, man, that definitely probably was a wise idea, man.
Hell yeah.
But I know you're a busy guy, man, so I'm going to dive right into this broadcast, man. But I want to take you back to the beginning of your amazing career this far and just ask, like, what actually made you decide to actually venture into the music industry initially, man? Because you're such a phenomenal, gifted MC.
Yeah, well, before I was an MC, I tried making it as a full-time b-boy, like professional breakdancer. I was in a crew back in the day, even though I was more of a popper, more like the robotics, the animation. But I was in a crew state-of-the-art, and we were battling everywhere. We were trying to go, like, everywhere we could. We got out to Vegas to battle some crews out there. And, we were doing, like modeling shoots and, like, dancing at the Roxy on Saturday nights to hype up the crowd. And then what happened was I ended up blowing out my knee, and I had surgery on my knee. So then after that, I wasn't really as prolific at breaking anymore because I kind of missed my, you come out of it for a year. It's hard to get right back on top of your game. So that's when I started staying more in the studio, working on more of like the music side of things. And then as I got older, I progressed from the dance floor onto the microphone a little bit more.
And I have to ask, when you actually said that you actually ventured out to Las Vegas to actually to just do some b-boying, man, I have to ask, man, like, what was that? What was it like actually just competing out there in Las Vegas? And of course, what was the outcome? Did your crew actually win those breaks?
Dude, it was amazing, man. I mean, we just went out there to build bridges, make connections. We weren't really going out there with any expectations. But while we were out there, we were hitting all the clubs at the time. It was the Rum Jungle, and Studio 54 was out there at MGM Grand, and then they had Club Raw doing their thing. And we connected with all the people out there. Like, back then it was Rock Skittles crew. They were really big out there. So, I mean, it was just really, really cool to, like, and, Tuesday night it was, like, this casino's club. And then, like, Thursday night we'd see all the same dancers at, like, the others. Every casino had, like, their night that the dancers would show up to. So by the end of the week, man, it was really dope. We tested our chops against some of the best b-boys out in Vegas. Couple rounds they got us, couple rounds me and my friends that were out there got them. But it was just to, make new connections and just to see what, like, styles were like out in the Midwest and whatnot.
And also as well, man, aside from the b-boying days, man, you are also a member of Troy City's Finest, man. I was wondering, what's the story behind that amazing hip-hop group? And of course, how did you actually meet the other members?
Yeah, man. So first of all, a little story about that. There's no such place called Troy City. It's a fictional place. But we wanted to represent where we were from, which is Fall River. But we don't want to be like corny, like, oh, Fall River is best. So we did some research, and we found out that Fall River had once upon a time been called Troy, Massachusetts. So we said, that'd be really cool to, like, build up the story of this city. And when people go to look for it, they're like, where the hell are these guys from? Where the hell's Troy City? Well, there is no real Troy City. Like I said, you got to know the lineage. But we represented Fall River, and I was actually a high school teacher. So over the years, there were so many kids that went through the school, thought they were rappers, thought they were producers, and the reality is like 1% of them were any good. But one of the kids that had graduated, I was like a 24-year-old teacher. He was like 18, 19. So we connected, and then there was another cat in the city, Tony Backwards, who was making beats. So we joined up with him, and then we ended up like, it was almost like a Wu-Tang Clan of the city. Like whoever was spitting at the time was like, yo, Troy City's finest, that's them dudes. And we're like, hey, come join. We don't put out an album, come jump on the album. So it was very open arms to whoever was dope back in like 2005, 2006, 2007. And then over the years, it kind of whittled away to like three of us, myself, my boy SK, and the producer. And then, you know, that's where we're at nowadays.
And also as well, in 2011, you guys actually released the phenomenal record, Crowd Control. I was wondering, what is the story behind that phenomenal record? And of course, is it still available for our listeners to purchase today if they haven't already got their copy?
First of all, yes, it is still available. It should still be up on all the digital platforms, you know, Spotify and all those things. And I'm glad you brought that up, man, because out of everything I've done in my career, that's probably the dopest album that we had put out. I got to give shouts to DJ Next from Amalgam Records. I'm not sure if you know who that is, from Boston.
I heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, he was really big. He had the first digital store before iTunes. He was actually in Billboard magazine because it was his idea to have the first all-digital hip-hop store, which was Amalgam Digital. And I bring him up because he was like my first friend when we were like 13, 14 years old, listening to rap music in like an all-white suburban high school. You know, we got a lot of crap from the jocks. You know, we used to have to fend for ourselves. People saying, why are you listening to that shit? Why you want to be black? You know, this is back in 93, 94 when people were still ignorant to the culture. But he ended up having his own record label, Amalgam Records. He actually directed movies after that, sold the record label. But basically, when we were coming out Troy City's finest, DJ Next had all the connections, and he was gracious enough to like open up his Rolodex to us at the time, and like hooked us up with like the Artifacts, Tame One, Afu Ra, Gangstar Foundation, The Last Emperor, C-Ray's Walls, Pumpkinhead. I don't mean to name drop, but that's kind of how we built Crowd Control, was doing all those features and networking with all the originators from like the East Coast and New York at the time, you know. So that really helped springboard us into like the underground hip hop culture, you know.
And I gotta say as well, my favorite record off that project is actually Cold Winds, the one that you actually did with The Last Emperor.
Oh, yeah, true that, man. That is probably my favorite song on that, too, just because I had so much respect for The Last Emperor, too, man. It was an honor to have him on a song, man, and to be rapping with him.
And I noticed as well, with the Troy City's finest records, you guys also had Backward Productions actually on the back of those records. I have to ask, was that one of your guys' companies? And if so, like, what made you guys decide just to start up Backwards Productions?
Right, like I said, when we started Troy City's Finest, I had mentioned Tony Backwards was the producer that we met. So he was the one that kind of schooled us to like the distribution side of things. And like we had the talent, the production, but we didn't know how to put out an album. So he's the one who kind of like was like, all right, we need a barcode. We need a place to package these. We need distribution. You know, at the time we were in like Newberry Comics and undergroundhiphop.com's brick and mortar store. We're on Access Hip Hop in San Diego. So it was really Tony Backwards that helped us lay the groundwork to like bring these artists to town, pay them to do a show, get them for a feature, and then like I said, just be able to like package our own album. We did like 1,000 units and sold out of the Crowd Control. So I owe that to Tony Backwards at the time, who's since moved on. He's kind of like retired from like, you know, making albums, but now he just like sells beats here and there. But that's the story with Backwards Productions.
And also as well, aside from the music industry, like you mentioned actually previously throughout the interview, that you were actually a full-time high school teacher. I was wondering, what actually made you decide to pursue a career in teaching and just be an English teacher?
I don't know, like happenstance really, man. Like I was in college doing the college thing like so many of my friends were, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I worked full-time in a factory all summer, and I said, I never want to do this again. I had a background in literature, and I said, you know what, if I could teach, I could work on my music, still dance during the summers, still do my thing, you know, practicing every day at the dance studio, work in the recording studio, and have my summers off to pursue those things. So it just made sense to put my knowledge into literature and That's why I'm an English teacher, obviously, because as you know, hip-hop and literature kind of go hand in hand. I'm sure you know that, Immortal.
Oh, most definitely, man. I gotta say, it's actually smart as well, just being able to know already that you have the summers off, man. And I hear you on that, man, because in my personal opinion, summers is the best time to actually have that inspiration, when it's summertime, the heat, the beach. That's when most people, are getting that serotonin.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think you mean melatonin, the serotonin. Wait a minute. Is that what you get from MDMA when you take it?
I meant like sunlight type stuff.
Yeah. The vitamin D. I got you. Word. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, as we know, man, I mean, I don't know about you. I'm a night owl, so I do my best work like in the middle of the night and then in the summer because I can stay up all night all summer. And while everyone else is sleeping, that's when I'm writing and listening to all my beats and things like that,
And also, as well, as you mentioned that you actually did a show out in Toronto, you have also toured up and down the East Coast and, of course, Canada. I was wondering, what was your stay actually like in the Great White North? And, of course, what is one of your most fondest Canadian memories you had out here on tour?
Well, that's two different questions right there. I can say there's a stereotype. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but we always say, like, Canadians are supposed to be the nicest people. And I think it's true. Like, whenever I'm up there, it's like the average person that works at, like, I don't know, like the gas station or the coffee shop is usually nicer than the average person that works at the gas station or the coffee shop where I'm at, in New England. We got that New England attitude, that New York minute. Everyone's always in a hurry. I find Canadians to be very, very, like, more laid back and just good people. And I don't know, like, when I go to Montreal, that's like a whole different experience than when I go to Toronto. Like, Quebec and Ontario is like almost two different countries to me. But I think that I would prefer Toronto just because it seems like we're still in America when we're up there. You know what I mean? Everything's still like the same. The people, the music, the culture. And obviously when you go to Quebec, you got to know a little bit of French and whatnot. But yeah, I did a New Year's Eve show in Toronto, and that was like so dope. And like I said, I wish I got to stay an extra day, but we had to leave because of the blizzard creeping up. So, and I'm actually supposed to be back up there this New Year's Eve with the Portuguese recording artist George Ferreira. But with COVID and all the travel restrictions, I'm hoping that we're still able to get up there, but it's looking like 50-50 right now.
And since it is about 50-50, and I do know with the travel restrictions, can you tell our listeners a bit more about this up-and-coming performance? And, of course, if it's still going on, how can they actually go about getting themselves some tickets?
Yes, well, this is not a hip hop show. This is more, like I said, it's Portuguese music where I'm like the featured hip hop performance. So what I'll do is I'll come out, I'll do a couple of songs with George Ferreira, who the people are buying tickets to see, and then I always do like some freestyles because when he heard me freestyle, he's like, Karl, my name's Karl, my government name. So he says, Karl, man, I want you to come on stage and can you do that freestyle? Talk about whatever I ask you to talk about. Maybe introduce the band. And so now it's like a challenge. Like when I come up on stage with him, he tries to trip me up and like throw some topics at me that I might not be ready for, just to see if he can catch me. But I'm always on my toes, So and I do. It's the same band most of the time, so it's the same name, same instruments. But as you know, it comes right off the top, so it's never the same rap. It's always freestyle, 100% legitimate.
And also as well, man, you actually won an IPMA Award for your song, Now You Know. I was wondering if you can actually shed some light on this prestigious award win. And of course, what was it like just receiving that amazing accolade?
I mean, that was one of the best moments in my music career because I had tried for like 4 years to win that award. I submitted music. So first of all, let me just explain. It's an International Portuguese Music Award. So it's the equivalent of almost like if the Portuguese music culture had a Grammy. So you have like 20 countries that submit music, and you just have to have Portuguese lineage. So it's not like the song has to be in Portuguese. You just have to have Portuguese ancestry, which I do. All my grandparents are from Madeira and the old country. So So even though I rap in English, I'm still eligible. So I submitted for 3 or 4 years music, and I had been nominated a couple of times, but I had never won. So I never got to go up on stage, accept the award, give a speech. I just thought it was cool just to be nominated. So I was nominated for a People's Choice Award, actually, which is almost just like, I hate to say it's like a popularity contest, but it is. It's whoever gets the most votes. And out of all the artists that were in the category, I had the People's Choice nomination 3 years straight. Well, the 4th year, I actually got nominated for Best Hip Hop and Rap Song for the song Now You Know that you had mentioned, and I finally won the award on year 4, which, of course, was COVID year, and they didn't even have the live show. So it was a virtual show, so I got to record an acceptance speech. And, I'm happy that I finally won the award, even though I wasn't there in person to accept it. But much love to the IPMAs, my buddy Dave Saraiva and Zach for putting it on every year. And I know it's a lot of work getting all those countries involved and dealing with the submissions. So I think they do a great job. And if any listeners out there are listening to this, please go check out that website, International Portuguese Music Awards, and, show them some love if you can.
And also as well, last year, December 26th of 2020, you actually released the song City of Dreams featuring Tori J. I was wondering, how did yourself and Tori get connected? And of course, what was it like working with her in the studio on this phenomenal song?
That's right, and I actually told Tori J I was going to give her a shout tonight. So shout to Tori J. And not only do we have that song, City of Dreams, out, but we just dropped another song that just debuted in Italy, in Venice, Italy, this month, called Hip House. So Tori J is a phenomenal vocalist. She does a little bit of rapping. She's also a dance choreographer, so very awesome. But how did I link up with her? She's also of the Portuguese culture. We're from the same location, so I actually met her through her cousin who owns a Portuguese restaurant. She said, "Yo, my cousin sings. You gotta hear her." And I don't know about you, Immortal, but whenever I hear anyone who's good at anything, I always like to try to collaborate with them. Whether it's like a bass player, if I can get them to play some bass on my song, or a drummer. So as soon as I heard her sing, I tried to set it up. When we set it up, we made one song, we made 2 songs, and now we're making 3 songs. So yeah, check out City of Dreams if you're interested, and Hip House.
And I gotta say, you guys have such phenomenal chemistry together on that song, man. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what you guys can actually come together and do more in the future.
Yeah, thank you. And she's actually a newer recording artist, just because she's a little bit younger than me. So I'm hoping that she gets that nomination for the IPMA this year. So I think the listeners, it's good to keep the new artists coming, and that's why they also have a Best New Artist of the Year award. So I'm really rooting for Tori J to take that home, maybe this year or next.
But I gotta ask, man, what is next for yourself, the craft, man? Because I know we only touched base on a sliver of your amazing career this evening, but I have to ask, is there anything we happen to miss? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still got you here live on the radio station airwaves this evening.
So I got an album dropping, hopefully by the end of the winter, called Elemental. I have about 10 songs for it. The reason why I'm calling it Elemental is because, first of all, it's like elemental, like me, like bearing the truth. It also, I have a song about the 4 elements, the earth, wind, fire, and water, and also the hip-hop elements, as you know, the 4 elements, the DJ, the MC, the graffiti writer, and a breakdancer. So, it's that, you got that old-school hip-hop flavor. But like I said, so it's kind of elemental from all angles. So that's going to be dropping by the end of the winter. I'm going to probably say it'll honestly be out in February, even though it's been pushed back several times. And then other than that, I'm working with a bunch of dope people out in Italy. DJ Aladdin and Santernino, 2 amazing. I mean, Santernino is a monster on the bass guitar. He's one of the most famous bass players out there. So I just did a song with those 2 that was played all over the Italian airwaves. And my boy Rookie One, who's my brother from another mother that I met over the internet, actually, through a mutual friend, a mutual hip-hop DJ. He did a couple cuts for me, and since then we've done about 3 tracks, and we have our newest funky tune with all live instrumentation on the bass coming out called Honky Tonk. So that's about to drop in Italy and around here on December 3rd. So that's next week. And I actually sent you an advance copy, so if you want to play it for yourself or for anyone, in the next week or two, feel free to jam it out.
Hey, man, most definitely. I greatly appreciate that, man. But also, crap, this is the time in the interview, man, that I give a chance for the individual that slides through the radio station airwaves. Just like a chance to give, like, shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to. But most of all, man, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything the craft if they're not already doing so.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to you, man, because you are keeping it 100, man. I checked, before I agreed to do the interview, I checked into a little bit of Outlaw radio, and I'm like, yo, this dude knows more about hip hop than I do, and I think I know a good deal. But the amount of guests you've had on there was just like, I'm like, yo, these are like dudes that I've been listening to, new artists, older artists. So big shouts to Outlaw Radio, DJ Immortal for sure. As far as me, I got to shout my boy SK, who's the other MC in Troy City's finest. He's been down with me since the first song I recorded. My boy Clyde Berry, my producer, Jake Pereira, Pear Tree Studios, which is where I record. Like I said, Tori J and Rookie One, who I'm heavily featuring on my new album. And then just, of course, my family listening, my friends, my kids, Dante and Aria, my wife, Christina, because without family in your corner, you're not going to make it very far, man. Behind every successful person is a strong supporting network. Whether you're a DJ, a rapper, a singer, you're not going to make it there by yourself. So always keep in mind those around you, those that helped you make it. And also, one other thing, if any of my students are listening, any of my former students, shouts, Mr. Amaral, always got love for you. You know where to find me. Facebook.com/Karl Amaral. That's my real name, Karl with a K. And then on Twitter, I'm the Craft4, the Craft, one word, and the number 4. And on Instagram, I am the Craft04. So hit me up on IG. My YouTube channel is also the Craft4. So, 4 elements. Like I said, 4 elements of hip-hop, 4 elements of the earth. I just like that number 4. So, that's how you can find me, Immortal. And dude, big shouts for getting down with Cold Winds, too, in the last event, man. Not enough of people know that, dude. He was one of the greatest MCs of the 90s. So anyone that's rocking with the Last Emperor, man, I give big shouts, too.
I gotta say, man, he's definitely a phenomenal MC, man. I believe I actually interviewed him, I want to say, last year, but I do a lot of interviews, so I think it was last year or my very first year on the air, 2019, but we definitely had a phenomenal interview that lasted about 45 minutes, man. He definitely has so many legendary projects out there, man.
Absolutely. He's such an inspiration ever since I heard Secret Wars with the comic books, you know what I mean? Because, like, the way he approaches the songs conceptually, like, he'll just do a song, like, with all Tiger references, and then he'll just do something. That's kind of like where I get some of my ideas from, is, like, listening to the stuff that he used to do. He did, like, the Star Wars song, and just, like, every song was, like, a different lyrical concept, so that's kind of how I like to mirror my style, like, is kind of like things like that, like having some fun and experimenting with the lyrics on each track.
But I gotta say, first and foremost, Kraft, thank you so much, man, for just taking a little bit of your time this evening and sliding into the 97.7 FM airwaves, man. It definitely was an honor and most definitely a privilege, man, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing this again in the future.
Mortal, man, thank you so much for having me. Send me your address, too. I'll send you a care package of some stuff, man. I'll put a box together for you. And, yeah, man, and next time I'm up in Canada, I'll reach out. I don't know how close you'll be to where I'll be performing, but let's link up in person, have a drink or coffee or whatever it is you sip on, you know?
Hey, man, definitely sounds like a plan to me, man. Most definitely. I'm up for that 110%, man. So definitely let me know when you cross the border into north of the tundra.
Word. And again, happy holidays, too, and to all your listeners. And from here on out, I know I'll be a listener. I'm glad that I found out about Outlaw Radio, man. Keeping it real for hip-hop, 100%, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate the love, man. I really do. Thank you so much, Kraft, and we definitely shall talk soon.
Sounds good, brother. Have a good night.
You as well. Happy holidays.
You too. Peace.